it's Donovan, and welcome back to the special hour episode 49. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I actually eliminated all of my co-hosts. I killed them all. Today, we're going to be experimenting a little as I'm doing a solo episode of a topic that I'm very, very interested in. And also, it's a bit of a dry news week, and I don't think you want to be hearing me yapping about Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave for an hour. Or maybe you do. So, let's get into the main topic, but first the pleasantries as I'm talking to myself. How am I? School is starting. I want to die. All right, that's great. So now let's move on to my special selects. For this week, I've been playing mostly my second playthrough of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch 2 edition, and once again, it is probably my favorite game of all time. And let me just say, a lot of the goodwill Breath of the Wild has, you can attribute that to Tears of the Kingdom. A lot of the great things Breath of the Wild does, Tears of the Kingdom also does, merely because it benefits from being a sequel, but it also suffers because it's a sequel. It suffers because it's not the greatest sequel game ever. It almost tries to not be a sequel, but nonetheless, it is still an incredible game, dare I say, better than Breath of the Wild in almost every way except story. I still think the story elements in Tears of the Kingdom kind of suffer a little bit. It's ambitious, I'll give it that, but there are times where I have to extend my knowledge of the story outside of the game itself and just make up my own fan theories, make up my own connections compared to what the game directly tells us. But maybe that's also a strength of the game that you could say, where it creates this imaginative world that you can just endlessly think about outside of gameplay. But again, Tears of the Kingdom is an amazing game. Other than that, I've just been waiting patiently for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. Now, let's get into the main meat and potatoes of this. This is a topic that's very interesting to me, and it's a topic that not too many people are extremely knowledgeable about. And I'm not the expert here. I don't work for Nintendo, but I think it's important to have some insight into who's making their games. You can call Nintendo soulless or whatever, but you have to understand that whenever you look at a game, whenever you look at the credits page of any game, any movie, any piece of music, whatever, it is made by people, a conglomerate of many differing ideas, a melting pot of so many people from different backgrounds coming together to make an awesome piece of media. Or it could be utter dog shit, who knows, or it could be made with ill intentions. But nonetheless, it's made by people. And I want to go ahead and talk about who these people are. We are talking about Nintendo's development studios, from third party to second party, all the way to first party. Who are they? What do they do? And maybe by the end of this episode, you have a face to thank for your favorite games of all time. A lot of people go around and say, you know, this Kirby game, it's a Nintendo game. This Xenoblade Chronicles game, it's a Nintendo game. Super Smash Brothers, it's a Nintendo game. And that's what Nintendo wants you to think. They don't really shine a light on who their developers are. Well, at least on the surface. Of course, they'll go into more depth and ask the developer interviews, but for the most part, at the end of every Nintendo Direct, at the end of every Nintendo trailer release, they always have their logo at the very end of the game, signifying that it is a Nintendo game. It doesn't matter who made it. It's not a Shigeru Miyamoto game. It's not a Shinya Takahashi game. It's a Nintendo game, which has homogenized all of their development studios into one banner, which does create such humongous brand cohesion. That's why Nintendo is so synonymous with so many people today. That's why a lot of people can attribute so many different franchises all the way back to Nintendo. They have such strong synergy between all of their different series. And I just want to break that homogenization. And I just want to break down who these people are. So who do we have first? Well, let's make this a little bit easier. Let's create an analogy. Nintendo's first party games are from the Nintendo immediate family. They are the core of Nintendo. They are Nintendo. That's their first party games. Now, their second party games are their relatives. They're part of the family, yes, but they're not pure in blood. Now, third party studios are like Nintendo's friends. It's the developers that are on almost every platform, whether it be Capcom, EA, Activision, Square Enix. They're all third parties that will appear on other different platforms. Sometimes you'll have development studios from third parties help exclusively with Nintendo games, but for the most part, they're largely separate. I can bring up an example of Koei Tecmo. They helped out with Fire Emblem Three Houses, but they also developed the Hyrule Warriors games. More importantly, they developed the Dynasty Warriors series, which isn't always exclusive to Nintendo, but the Nintendo exclusive games like Hyrule Warriors or Fire Emblem Warriors, there's a collaboration there. Obviously, with studios like Square Enix, they'll also sometimes make exclusive games. For example, Octopath Traveler was once a timed exclusive until Octopath Traveler 2 released on all platforms, but there's a sort of synergy going on there. So does Capcom with Monster Hunter Rise. That was initially a Nintendo Switch exclusive until it came to all platforms. Koei Tecmo also made Metroid Other M, everyone's favorite Metroid game, but they largely stay out of the Nintendo sphere. But there's a bit of there's a bit of a similarity between studios like Koei Tecmo and what I'm going to get into next, little partnerships. Mercury Steam is not owned by Nintendo. They're an external team. They don't do anything with they report to themselves. They can do whatever they want. Nintendo just partners with them to create Metroid Samus Returns and Metroid Dread, and presumably the upcoming Metroid Ravenous. But they're an external team outside of Nintendo's jurisdiction that collaborates with them. I guess you can label that under second party, where now we'll get into the weeds of all these different things. So it might surprise you, but something like Kirby is not a truly Nintendo product. It's HAL Laboratory. Nintendo owns the rights to Kirby. They have the exclusive publishing rights. They have all the merchandising. Kirby's a Nintendo property through and through, but it's not made by them. It's made in a completely separate building known as they're under HAL Laboratory. HAL Laboratory does have extensive ties to Nintendo, dating back all the way to Iwata. But HAL Laboratory is not Nintendo themselves. They're a second-party developer. They're free to do whatever they want. In fact, they've made a couple mobile games that aren't related to Nintendo whatsoever. HAL Laboratory is free to do what they please. Once again, going back to Intelligent Systems' Fire Emblem. Now, Intelligent Systems, I believe at one point they even shared offices with Nintendo, just in a tiny little corner, but Intelligent Systems is not owned by Nintendo. They do their own thing. Now, these are the guys that make Paper Mario and Fire Emblem and Advance Wars and all these different games, but something like Fire Emblem isn't completely owned by Nintendo. It's by Intelligent Systems, their own studio. Going into Pokemon, I think this is pretty common knowledge at this point, though everyone on some random website like Twitter or the comments of YouTube shorts, they'll always blame the development of Pokemon and its shortcomings on Nintendo when, again, you got to realize it's made by Game Freak. Game Freak is free to do their own thing, i.e. Beasts of Reincarnation, or that one drilling game that I forget, but they're free to do whatever they want. They're not owned by Nintendo. And they've had some success. They're a little bit shaky. I kind of go back to something like Mercury Steam, or Mercury Steam without Nintendo's guidance, they're a little bit shaky. So I hope the best for Metroid's future. But going back to Pokemon, Pokemon is developed by Game Freak, but it's also, I believe, I don't know to the extent of how it's managed, but it's also owned by Creatures. Nintendo owns a third of Pokemon. Then there's Game Freak, and I guess the Pokemon Company. I'm so confused. And Creatures, which, funnily enough, Creatures used to be Ape Inc., which is a development studio made by Shigesato Itoi. Ape Inc. made, again, Earthbound, and Earthbound was also made by HAL Laboratory, which is owned by which Earthbound property is owned by Nintendo. So it's a whole can of worms there. Camelot is not owned by Nintendo, but they make so many different Mario sports titles, including the Golden Sun series, which is dead. So I guess they only make Mario sports games now. But they've also made Everybody's Golf, which I believe used to be PlayStation exclusive game. Now it's everywhere. So yeah, Camelot is free to do what they please. Good Feel is a second party developer. They make Kirby's Epic Yarn and the Yoshi series now, most recently with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, or Yoshi and the fucking Book, Yoshi's Crafted World, Yoshi's Woolly World. They make those games. Alpha Dream, poor Alpha Dream, they're no longer existing, but they used to make the Mario and Luigi series. Platinum Games is a second party studio. They are not owned by Nintendo and yet make the Bayonetta series, which is owned by Nintendo and partly Sega. So there's another can of worms there. But Platinum Games makes Bayonetta, and they've even made Star Fox Zero, but they're not owned by Nintendo. Grezzo was famous for making all the Zelda, or a lot of the Zelda ports to the Nintendo 3DS. I believe Tantalus was the one that made the HD games, but Grezzo has a history of porting games and then eventually leading to the development of their own title. They've done a lot of porting jobs, i.e. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. Eventually they made Link's Awakening, and then they finally got to make their own game, which was Echoes of Wisdom. You see this pattern a lot with Nintendo's second-party studios. They work with them endlessly. Well, they give them a small project, which is like a testing ground, which builds them up to a larger project that will cement the series' future. Much like Velan Studios. Velan Studios made Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. It was initially a RC car prototype, and then they went to Nintendo because they had some connections within the industry and they were big fans of Nintendo, and they were able to make that game, and now they were able to make Star Fox, and I'm assuming that they will be making the Star Fox sequel. They are the future of Star Fox, and I wish them good luck. Sora is Masahiro Sakurai's company. Masahiro Sakurai does not work for Nintendo. He used to work for HAL Laboratory, which he doesn't work at anymore. Sakurai is more of a freelance guy. Ever since leaving HAL Laboratory, he made, I guess in collaboration with Bandai Namco, which we'll get into later, he made, again, Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Kirby Air Riders, Kid Icarus Uprising. That's all Masahiro Sakurai. That's all outside of Nintendo. He became a freelance worker just because he didn't want to be enslaved to HAL Laboratory making the same Kirby games over and over again. I mean, his time at HAL Laboratory, you can see on his resume that he kind of grew tired of making Kirby games. He went on to make Kirby Air Ride, which is a wildly different Kirby project compared to all the other mainline Kirby games at the time. But Masahiro Sakurai is a second he's a second party developer. Sora Limited is a second party developer to Nintendo. They're not owned, but they have a strong, very strong working relationship. And you see these patterns again with these second party developers where Nintendo doesn't have the need to outright purchase them because they're already great friends with these developers. So there's no need to actually invest in them becoming a full-on subsidiary when they know, well, you guys make series for us and we have a great working relationship. Let's just keep it the way things are. And I think there's something cool about that. But now let's get into Nintendo's main developers. Let's first get into their subsidiaries. Now, their subsidiary, although they technically are separate from Nintendo, at one point they had origins that didn't come from Nintendo. They are outright bought by them. They are 100% Nintendo Studios. These are Nintendo developers. They have the DNA within them, or they were the DNA was spread to them. But either way, these are core Nintendo games. These studios that I'm about to list are definitely still fall under a true Nintendo game. Maybe not true, but true. I hope this makes sense. But our first subsidiary that we're going to take a look at is, I'm looking at my list right here, 1UP Studio. Now, 1UP Studio used to be known as Brownie Brown before they were bought by Nintendo. Most notably, they developed Mother 3. Mother 3, now Earthbound was developed by Ape and HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo. I believe Earthbound Beginnings was just made by Ape and Nintendo. But 1UP Studio made Mother 3. And HAL Laboratory only helped with the sound. I believe only a couple dudes from HAL Laboratory, I forget their names. That's all they did. They just did the music. Now, 1UP Studio also makes or co-develops the 3D Mario series and Ring Fit Adventure. I think they also made some of the Mana titles, which is very interesting. But 1UP Studio is a Nintendo studio, which makes me think, okay, Earthbound is definitely a collaboration, but Mother 3, since it was made by Brownie Brown, which is now Nintendo, the only thing that makes Mother 3 not a 100% true Nintendo blood game is that the sound design and I guess the initial engine was made by HAL Laboratory. So I don't know, it's a fun semantic thing that only chuds like me care about. IQ does all the Chinese translations. If you know the IQ player for like the GameCube or the N64, that's them. They do all the stuff for the Chinese market, which is a very big market, but they have their own legal provocations to video games. So Nintendo has to make a whole subsidiary to go around that. Mario Club is quality assurance. These guys appear in so many credits to Nintendo games. They're just quality assurance. Nintendo Cube, now they used to be known as ND Cube, and they were bought more recently to say. These guys make the Mario Party games. They've also made, I think, a single F-Zero game, but they make a bunch of the party games for Nintendo. Wii Party, that was under Nintendo Cube. Now they're fully owned now. So Mario Party has come back to an in-house development project, which I think it's kind of funny because Mario Party initially started as a second party collaboration with Hudson Soft, which is now owned by Konami. So funny to think that it once was a second party collaboration, and then ND Cube came in, which is still second party, and then they were just outright bought. So now it's just brought in house. Nintendo Europe Research and Development, or NERD. These guys, they're a bit of an unsung hero. They make a lot of Nintendo's emulators, which I guess you can say has varying degrees of success, but they make a bunch of all of Nintendo's emulators dating back to the virtual console days on the Wii. They now make the Nintendo Classics applications, but they also made a Wii U chat, Wii U internet browser. They just make a lot of the emulators behind closed doors. I believe they were probably also responsible for the NES Classic Edition and the SNES Classic Edition. Or Nintendo Software Technology, I believe, is the only Nintendo of America development studio that they make Wave Race, 1080 Avalanche, so Dead Games, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. All right, buddy. Metroid Prime Hunters, that's what I know them for. But yeah, they mostly make the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. They don't really do much else, which I find very, very interesting. The only Nintendo of America studio just kind of makes, I'm just going to say it, just mediocre crap. Nintendo Technology Development makes all the development kits and co-develops hardware. Nintendo Pictures was recently created, and they initially assisted with graphics and on various titles, starting with Tears of the Kingdom, apparently. But Nintendo Pictures is responsible for, remember those Pikmin shorts? I believe they used to be known as Dynamo Pictures, but now they're a fully owned Nintendo subsidiary, and I'm pretty sure Nintendo Pictures has a credit in Death Stranding 2 on the beach for some reason. I don't know what they were doing there, but it's interesting to see. I don't think they have an involvement in Nintendo's movies, but they have involvement in game development, and I believe that's their primary focus. I also forgot to mention Bandai Namco Studios Singapore. They've helped develop lots of Nintendo games in the 2010s, I believe, or maybe just a couple. I know a big contribution was Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Wii U. And they were also most likely the original developers of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And now they have been officially acquired by Nintendo to become a subsidiary, and they're now known as Nintendo Studios Singapore, and just got their first credit under their new name under Splatoon Raiders, I believe. And after the whole Metroid Prime 4 Beyond fiasco, I'm not sure about their overall track record other than being a pretty good program studio. But other than that, in the terms of their creative output, well, they gave us a skeleton of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Retro Studios did not cook very much with that. So, I hope for the best. Nintendo Systems is also pretty recent, which is a joint venture with DNA. DNA is responsible for Nintendo's mobile games, and I guess their mobile infrastructure in general, as well as the Nintendo account system, which is very, very vital to Nintendo's future, apparently, according to all their financial briefings. But all of that could be thanked because of Nintendo Systems. They do all the behind-the-scenes work for Nintendo account and other Nintendo services. So I guess maybe we can blame them for Nintendo Switch Online's poor service. Who knows? Shiver Entertainment was just bought and does a lot of porting jobs to Nintendo platforms. Now we can get to the big ones. Next Level Games. Now that they are based in Vancouver, and they are 100% a Nintendo developer. They made Punch-Out for the Wii, Mario Strikers, but most notably Luigi's Mansion. Luigi's Mansion 3 sold a lot. So at this point, Luigi's Mansion is a top dog Nintendo series. So they're a pretty big developer there. Now, I don't know if I could say the same for Retro Studios at this point. Retro Studios is known for the prolific Metroid Prime trilogy and the amazing Donkey Kong Country Returns duology, you could say. They had a perfect track record, but during the 2010s after Tropical Freeze, they were kind of doing nothing. They made a couple pitches to their bosses, the parent company in Kyoto. One was a canceled Chic game. One was a canceled, I guess, Hyrule Heroes game. There was one game that you can look up right now. You can see development test footage for this game called Harmony, which didn't get super far, but it was supposed to be a Nintendo Switch game. Obviously, the point being, Retro Studios was kind of fumbling during the Nintendo Switch generation, where they were just spitballing ideas left and right, and ideas that obviously did not land with their bosses in Kyoto. They were lost. They lost so much of their talent, and there's a handful of developers that still stem from the Metroid Prime trilogy days, but the Retro Studios that you see now is very different from the Metroid Prime trilogy days. It's almost a completely different studio, i.e., you could see their success with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It's a mixed bag. Okay, you saw in real time, you heard in real time on this podcast of me gradually losing my faith in Metroid Prime 4 as I'm playing through the game. I thought it was the greatest thing I've ever laid my eyes on, and then in the end, it just left me with a sour taste of mediocrity. It's like a solid 7.5, 8, maybe 6 out of 10 game, which 7 and 8 out of 10 game, that doesn't seem so bad on the surface, but like I was so disappointed. But Retro Studios, I once thought of them as a perfect developer, but now that the curtains have been revealed, not even through Nintendo official interviews, we had to go through, I believe, Famitsu or something like that to get insight onto what the heck was going on at Retro Studios. It's a shame. But here's hoping that they have a bright future ahead for Metroid Prime 5. I'm betting that they're probably making that. Now we have the GOATs of Nintendo subsidiaries, Monolith Soft. Monolith Soft, their developers used to be Square Enix developers. They used to make the Xenogears and the Xenosaga series. Then they moved over to make their own studio, Monolith Soft, and then they were outright bought by Nintendo. Now, Monolith Soft, they primarily make the Xenoblade Chronicles series, which is a phenomenal series. 4 hit games, and they're definitely making Xenoblade Genesis. If they aren't, then the world is dead. But they've had a tremendous track record of great games. But not only that, Monolith Soft actually has a designated The Legend of Zelda studio. In fact, Monolith Soft have been heavily involved in the development of The Legend of Zelda, or at least the mainline Zelda games, stemming back from Skyward Sword. And there was a recent interview of Monolith Soft people, and I believe the Nintendo rep for Monolith Soft, expressing their desire to one day make a Zelda game of their own. So we'll see. Maybe they're making the Ocarina of Time remake. Who knows? Maybe it's not Grezzo or Tantalus. Maybe it's probably not Nintendo EPD3, which we'll get to in a sec. It could be Monolith Soft. I don't know. But Monolith Soft not only has ties to The Legend of Zelda, they have ties to almost every single Nintendo first-party game. They do a lot. Most recently, their most recent project was Splatoon Raiders. They helped out with various art assets. So their jobs extend greatly to so many Nintendo games. If you've played a Nintendo first-party game and you loved it, you can probably attribute some of that love to Monolith Soft. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Monolith Soft. Mario, Monolith Soft. Splatoon, Monolith Soft. Animal Crossing, that's Monolith Soft. They do so much work on Nintendo games. a lot of Nintendo games that you might think are your favorite, you might have to thank Monolith Soft for. They are a sleeper developer other than Xenoblade Chronicles. They do so much for Nintendo, and again, they're owned by Nintendo, so they are Nintendo. So that's all of Nintendo's subsidiaries. That's their children. But let's get into core Nintendo, who they really are, the roots of the bloodline. Now, Nintendo used to be comprised of research and development teams. Research and development one was led by Gunpei Yokoi, which made the Ultra Hand. That's how old R&D 1 stems back. But then they restructured into Nintendo EAD, and now today they restructured into Nintendo EPD. So let's go over these development studios. Nintendo EPD 1, Entertainment Planning and Development Division Group Number 1. That's what they're all called. And you can imagine why at places like the Game Awards, they just shorten it to Nintendo EPD. And they're like, what the fuck kind of inhumane name is that? I believe Capcom also has a similar naming scheme with their development teams. It's not the Resident Evil team, it's the Capcom group number blah blah blah. So Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development Group Number 1. What did they do? Well, I'm looking at this list right now. It seems that this group largely coordinates and helps out with Nintendo's second-party developers, and sometimes they're outside subsidiaries. So EPD1, I'm looking at this list, they helped out HAL Laboratory with Kirby Star Allies, so they probably help out with HAL Laboratory Intelligent Systems and coordinate with Monolith Soft, and sometimes with the Pokemon Company as well. EPD2 probably does the same thing, but this time with Sora, that being Super Smash Brothers, Super Mario Party series, you got the Mario Sports series, so you got Camelot and Nintendo Cube. I forget who made Mario and Luigi Brothership. I forget who did that, but they used to work with Alpha Dream, but I assume now they work with whatever studio made Brothership. EPD 6 does the same with Next Level Games, Paper Mario, so I guess that's also Intelligent Systems. Yeah. No, not much excitement there. And then, okay, now this is where it gets interesting. Smart Device PD, that's just what they're called. These guys, what the fuck do they do? These guys, they have the worst job ever. What do they honestly do? How many of their games have been shut down? It's crazy. The only games that they are actively working on is Fire Emblem Heroes, really, and Fire Emblem Shadows. And Fire Emblem Heroes is their most profitable mobile game. It makes a lot of money for Nintendo. It's not the craziest mobile game in terms of money, but it's their most successful one. It's not their most downloaded one, but it's their most successful. So I guess Smart Device PD has that going for them. But they made fucking Dr. Mario World, that's shut down. Miitomo shut down. Dragalia Lost shut down. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp ended its development, so now it's Pocket Camp Complete. Mario Kart Tour, that's done. Like, what do these guys do, man? I believe they also make all the apps, so they make Nintendo Today. Yippee. Then they make the Nintendo Store, which, by the way, why isn't my play activity visible in the Nintendo Switch app? Why is it available at the Nintendo Store app? What the fuck is wrong with you guys? All right, so now let's get into the interesting stuff. This is core Nintendo. This is the bloodline. And you know these games as just Nintendo games, but let's shine a light on some of these. Nintendo EPD 3. This is the Zelda studio. This is the core Zelda studio. I can guarantee you right now, they are working on the Legend of Zelda game. And to the people that think, oh, they ran out of ideas, so they're just making remakes, I think you're stupid. You clearly don't look at precedents. I don't think you even know what the word precedent even means. But these guys are legendary. They made well, since their team's formation, they made Skyward Sword, then they make A Link, which is a little bit shaky, A Link Between Worlds. Awesome game. I've never played it. Triforce Heroes, okay, come on, that's a little side project, right? But after Skyward Sword, they deviated and made the tremendous, amazing Breath of the Wild. They made the amazing Wild era, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They rethought what it meant to be a Zelda game, and obviously EPD3 has roots dating back all the way to the original R&D team for The Legend of Zelda. And these guys made Ocarina of Time. These guys have changed the gaming industry so much over their tenure. EPD3 is so legendary, and that's pun intended. These guys make awesome work. EPD4. Now these guys are funny. I like these guys. These guys are my jam. This is Nintendo's innovation core. These guys make the weird shit. Now some of them, it's a little bit shaky, but I love these guys. They have such a wide range of games. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball. None of you probably know what I'm saying, but this was a downloadable title on the Nintendo 3DS. Pretty cool game. Had very strange purchasing transactions that you can do. You can manipulate the prices of its DLC, which is really fun. And that's the real deal after all. Nintendo Badge Arcade. I love the Badge Arcade. Despite how predatory it probably is, I just had such a great time getting all the badges. It was so great. No, I am not spending $5 for digital badges on my home menu, but it was so fun. I love them. They made 1-2 Switch, which, okay, come on, guys. 1-2 Switch, it's a mediocre game. I guess they also made everybody's 1-2 Switch, which, I mean, according to insider reports, everybody fucking hated. But come on, 1-2 Switch is one of those tech demo-y games that show you what's capable to an extent. 1-2 Switch showed off the capabilities, you could say, of the Joy-Con, which, okay, man, sure, whatever. But these guys also made Nintendo Switch Sports, which, okay, now you must be saying, all right, well, these guys are making a bunch of duds. What's going on here? All right, well, Nintendo Switch Sports, it might be a little bit of a doozy, but they have a vision, sports mates, I guess. But they stick true, and they make, okay, Nintendo Switch Sports, definitely their most successful title outside of Ring Fit Adventure, which they also made Ring Fit Adventure, which is a super experimental yet really charming game. Again, this is the innovation core. They make a lot of weird things. I believe they, in collaboration with a different EPD team, they made Alarmo. Super weird, super experimental. But going back to Switch Sports, they truly showed that there's something about their game specifically from EPD4 that really resonates with the general market. It truly sticks, and I like Nintendo Switch Sports. It's a guilty pleasure, and they're definitely making Nintendo Switch Sports Resort. Don't know about that thumb wrestling game, but they make some good stuff, despite their weird machinations with sports mates. But you might be surprised that these guys make Tomodachi Life. They've made the recent Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, which is full of Miis. These, again, super weird game, but that's why I love it. This Nintendo EPD4 is the Nintendo charm. It's that soul that everyone claims that they love about Nintendo, and yet a lot of these games that I probably listed, they probably don't care about. They also made Miitomo. They have all these weird, wacky little projects like Alarmo that invigorate, that reinforce that Nintendo charm aspect. that everyone just seems to forget. If you believe Nintendo has lost its soul, look at EPD4. And my biggest example for EPD4 is Nintendo Labo. Nintendo Labo is fucking awesome. If you don't agree, get out of here. Get out. Stop listening. I don't want you here. And actually, I'm probably going to come to your house and strangle you. Nintendo Labo is amazing. It is such a cool toy that inspired like millions of kids. It only sold, I mean, the best selling one was the variety kit, which sold maybe about 1 million or 2 million units. But I was one of those kids. Nintendo Labo was truly inspiring. It's such amazing, simple technology that truly showed off Gunpei Yokoi's vision of lateral thinking with withered technology. It's cardboard, man, but the cardboard came to life and merged. It blurred the lines between physical and digital. It truly was magical. I love Nintendo EPD4. Nintendo EPD5. Now, I'm learning that I at first I thought, these development studios only work at one game at a time, but now that I'm learning Splatoon Raiders was made by a splinter group of the main Splatoon team, there's probably multiple studios, which is a great sign. But Nintendo EPD5 is the Splatoon team and the Animal Crossing team. Now, I'm hoping there's a dedicated Splatoon and Animal Crossing team so that they can branch off their games much sooner and that they can pump out content more consistently rather than switching from, Splatoon 2? Oh, now we got to move on to New Horizons. Oh, New Horizons done? Now we got to move on to Splatoon 3. Oh, now Splatoon 3's done. Now we got to move on to Raiders. Now we got to move on to new Animal Crossing, what have you. EPD5, they're cool. They're very cool. I love their writing. Okay, now you can say Animal Crossing New Horizons writing is not very good because it all just feels super sanitized. Oh, I'm everyone's friend. Okay, you got me there. But their writing in Splatoon is so cool. I love all the puns, man. These guys are so cool. They have so much style. And okay, you could say something about Animal Crossing, but Animal Crossing has that certain style, that certain vibe that resonates with so many people, tens of millions of people. It has a certain charm to it. And Splatoon has that certain freshness to it that I feel like only Nintendo EPD5 provides in their games. These guys are so cool. Nintendo, we already went over EPD6, so let's go over EPD7. EPD7, now I believe EPD7 might be in a bit of a reshake because I believe its lead was Yoshio Sakamoto. Now, it is not confirmed whether Sakamoto has retired or not, but there's a lot of hints saying that he has stepped down largely or has retired. Now, Sakamoto is known for Tomodachi Life. He is known for the Famicom Detective Club series, and he is most known for Metroid. Nintendo EPD7 mostly dealt with external studios under the supervision of Sakamoto. Now, because Sakamoto has waning power over at Nintendo, I'm starting to think Nintendo EPD7 has merged with Nintendo EPD4. So they used to be known for titles like the original Tomodachi Life, Rhythm Heaven, Metroid, Samus Returns. They helped out with Miitomo. That was all Sakamoto, but now it might be merged with EPD4. But these guys, I love Sakamoto. Sakamoto is a man of many talents. He has flaws. He made Other M, but he's such a cool dude. He's made so many wacky, awesome ideas. He's a treasure to Nintendo. I love him. Nintendo EPD8. These guys are legends. Just like Nintendo EPD3, they make the mainline Mario games. They also dabble in a side project, NES Remix. They also made Captain Toad Treasure Tracker as a little side thing. But they make the 3D Mario series. They made Super Mario 3D World, they made Super Mario Odyssey, they made Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I'm assuming that they're making the next mainline 3D Mario game. These guys are legendary, dating all the way back to their origins as Nintendo EAD Tokyo, I believe, when they made Donkey Kong Jungle Beat weird game, and then they made the Galaxy games, and then the 3D World and 3D Land and Odyssey. These guys know what they're doing. They are the pioneers of 3D platforming and sandbox games. These guys know what they're doing. These guys, like EPD3, have changed the gaming industry, dating back to like Mario 64. Nintendo EPD9, they only make the Mario Kart series. They've made ARMS, they dabbled in ARMS, but they primarily make the Mario Kart series. They're not like EPD5, which makes 2 series. No, EPD9 is just the Mario Kart guys. Maybe you could say EPD8 only makes 3D Mario, but EPD9, they really only make Mario Kart. They made Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they made Mario Kart World. Nintendo EPD10, the final Nintendo development studio. These guys are the 2D Mario creators. They made Super Mario Maker. They make the Super Mario Brothers games, which means tons and tons of new Super Mario Brothers games, as well as Super Mario Brothers Wonder. These guys date back all the way to the original Super Mario Brothers, so they have pioneered the entire platformer genre. They've defined what it means to be a platformer, what it means to be Mario. These guys are the original Mario developers, not Nintendo EPD8. They've also made the Pikmin series for Miyamoto, so these guys definitely have spread their wings a little bit with Pikmin. Yeah, these guys are awesome. I love these guys. They had a little bit of a stale foundation with the new Super Mario Brothers games, but then they made Super Mario Maker, which is an amazing level creator, and then they've deviated all the way to Pikmin with Pikmin 4 and Pikmin 3. They made, which again, Pikmin 4 is an amazing game, one of Nintendo's best made games ever, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder, where they broke traditions to make a game full of surprises. These guys are awesome. Now, let me tell you about the people behind this, which was kind of the point of this video. I was just naming a bunch of studios, but I need to name the people behind it. All of the software is led under Shinya Takahashi, I believe. He just organizes all the software and just leads all the teams. And then you got the general director, I believe, or producer. He's just a guy on top. Yoshiaki Koizumi, who has extensive ties. Again, these two guys have extensive ties to game development, which is great about Nintendo. What's great about them is that a lot of their leadership are from the game development background. These guys understand what it means to make a game. Koizumi, awesome guy. I love his work, and seeing him at the top, well deserved. I'm not really sure who runs EPD 1 and 2, but EPD 3, you know him, you love him. It's Eiji Aonuma. He leads the Zelda team. He's the general producer and the manager of that team. EPD 4, like I said, I believe it's Yoshio Sakamoto now. Since EPD 7, I'm going under the knowledge that EPD 7 merged with EPD 4, so Yoshio Sakamoto is that guy. EPD 5, Mr. Nogami, he's the Splatoon guy. I also believe Mr. Iguchi, he's the Animal Crossing guy. I believe they both co-lead EPD 5. Again, I don't work there. I don't know. EPD 6, that's their external teams with Next Level Games and Retro Studios. They used to be led by Mr. Tanabe. Tanabe has officially retired. Unlike Sakamoto's Ambiguity, he has officially retired. I like Tanabe. He makes some good stuff, but he's also made some shaky stuff. Metro Prime 4 Beyond being an example. But I mean, he's made great things. He's led Luigi's Mansion's development. He's led Donkey Kong Country's development. He knows what he's doing. He's human. He's made mistakes. He's like Miyamoto. Miyamoto is not perfect. Sometimes he can be stupid, but yeah, Tanabe has retired and is being replaced by Risa Tabata. Why do I know these things? I'm a virgin. But Risa Tabata has always worked under Tanabe. She's always been his co-producer, right-hand woman. So it should be a smooth transition. I have faith in Tabata. EPD 8 is led by Kenta Motakura. He has extensive ties to the 3D Mario series. I'm not sure if he's a newer recruit. He seems kind of young. He doesn't seem like he's from the classic era of Nintendo. But I just think that's very interesting. It's also under the jurisdiction of Yoshiaki Koizumi a little bit. He's had a little, like a tiny bit of involvement with Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I guess to a certain extent, Super Mario Odyssey. So that's very interesting. EPD 9, that's under, what's his name? Yabuki, I believe is how you pronounce it. I'm sorry, but yeah, he leads the Mario Kart team. Yeah, I think he generally knows what he's doing. Maybe, hopefully. I mean, Mario Kart World. I already said that Mario Kart World is a phenomenal, awesome game with a couple flaws, but he generally knows what he's doing. And EPD 10, you know him, you love him. He's Miyamoto's right hand man, and I'm not sure when he's gonna retire. He's of age now, but I hope he keeps working because he makes some great stuff. Actually, I just looked this up. Takashi Tezuka is the man that I was about to mention. Industry legend. Love him. He's an unsung hero. Always in Miyamoto's shadow, but he admittedly, I think he said personally he doesn't really like the spotlight very much, but he definitely deserves his flowers. I'm actually reading right now. It's actually EPD 10 is led by Mr. Kimura, which I'm not extremely familiar with, but very interesting. But EPD 10 is also, I guess, led by, or I guess managed at this point, or maybe overseen by Mr. Tezuka. But yeah, and then you got Shigeru Miyamoto, who doesn't work on video games at this point, but he still goes into work. He still goes into Nintendo Japan and just looks at games. People ask him questions of, for Donkey Kong Bonanza, who is Donkey Kong? Maybe give us some initial drawings. What do you think of Donkey Kong? Shigeru Miyamoto definitely also works. He still works. He works on the Super Nintendo World amusement parks. He works on the Super Mario movies. He's working on the Legend of Zelda movie. Yeah, that guy's still working, man. But he's not directly involved in game development anymore. He's not part of any EPD game. I mean, EPD studio. He's not even the lead of the studio. He's just he's just like a representative at this point. But yeah, that is all of Nintendo's development studios. I hope this podcast enlightened you on the names of these studios and who these people are and what specifically they make. Maybe at the end of this podcast, you've realized that you have a fondness for a certain Nintendo studio, and now you don't have to say, "Oh, I don't love Nintendo games. I love Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development Group Number 3's games." Said no one ever. But I hope this podcast showed to you that it's not all... There's more to the banner of Nintendo. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is not truly a Nintendo game. It's an intelligent systems game. Xenoblade Genesis is a Monolith Soft game. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is a Retro Studios game. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development Group Number 3 game. Donkey Kong Bonanza Mario Odyssey is an EPD 8 game. Splatoon and Animal Crossing is an EPD 5 game. They're all led by Mr. Nogami or Mr. Iguchi. Risa Tabata works on these games. Mr. Tezuka, Yoshio Sakamoto works on these games. Eiji Aonuma, which, again, everyone should know at this point. But I hope this has shown a light on who makes your favorite games. And maybe you have a favorite developer now and you just want to see what they make in the future. I know I'm looking at Nintendo EPD4 in the future. Other than Nintendo Switch Sports, I'm interested in where they'll go. I'm interested in what EPD 3 has in store for us. I'm interested in what EPD 8 has after Donkey Kong Bonanza. What's EPD 5 doing? I don't know. I just found this interesting. This is probably the least interesting topic known to man, but thank you for listening for about an hour. I somehow made this a very special hour. I hope it was a very special hour. This is all for this episode of episode 49. We are about to hit our landmark episode 50. If you have not already, please hit the like button if you've enjoyed my yapping and subscribe for future episodes of the special hour. I am Donovan Dud. You know where to find me. I'm on YouTube. That's all. Bye.